Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. As I continue this ongoing series, Is Queen the Greatest Band of All Time? Coming from a guy who's never been a big Queen fan. So I'm doing a deep dive into most of their albums. The last video I did was their debut album. It's actually playing in the background. And I don't have Queen 2. So the next up is Sheer Heart Attack, and I got the 2011 digital remaster, which I was glad to get because I wasn't thrilled with the sound of that original album. Loved the packaging of it, but it just didn't have a great sound. This one sounds a lot stronger, and it comes with a bonus EP. So let's talk about Sheer Heart Attack. Came out in 1974. Their third album was a big hit for them in the UK, and even in America was a hit. So they were really starting to break. This is a great example of why I do not review albums unless I hear them 5 times. People think I'm crazy, and I guess I am crazy. And sometimes it's like a job. Like this became a job. Because got to tell you, the first 2 times I heard this album, I hated it. I'm like, I can't even get through it. In fact, I spoke to one of my subscribers, Tom, who's a huge Queen fan. He rates the first 5 Queen albums 5 stars, and I was talking to him. I'm like, Tom, I can't even get through this thing, but I kept pushing. I've now heard this album 5 times, and I'm warming up to it. So, but I'm telling you, I'm trying to keep an open mind. So let's go through this thing song by song. It starts off with Brighton Rock. It opens up with like circus noises and carnival kind of sounds. Interesting. I remember Nectar on their Down to Earth album did a similar thing. So kind of an interesting way to open it up. All right. And then it goes into the weirdest thing where it totally turned me off. So if you're of my age, there was a time, I guess it was probably in the 70s, where Alvin and the Chipmunks, does anybody remember Alvin and the Chipmunks? They became pretty popular. And I remember people thinking, oh, this is so cool, this is great. And I was like, God almighty, I hate this. Had this really artificial high voice like chipmunks singing songs, and I despised it. Well, Brighton Rock opens up with Alvin and the Chipmunks. And I get it. It's like a story, and Freddie Mercury's doing like 2 different characters in it. And I guess one is the Alvin and the Chipmunk side. I don't know. I despised it. Absolutely despised it. Then in the middle of the song, Brian May goes into his guitar solo. Now, I have We Will Rock You, this legendary concert film. And listen, I was around in the 70s. I remember Led Zeppelin. A whole hour of a Led Zeppelin concert would be a drum solo and Dazed and Confused with Jimmy Page's guitar solo, and John Bonham would do Moby Dick, and No Quarter, John Paul Jones. I get it. It was the day of guitar solos. But in the middle of Brighton Rock, he does, I guess, like a 3+ minute guitar solo that, at least in my mind, even for the 70s, was so underwhelming. Listen, I know Brian May's a great guitarist. I know he homemade his first guitar. He's a master in the studio, as is the whole band. There is so many guitar layers in Queen that it's almost distracting. I guess he kind of takes that from Jimmy Page, because Led Zeppelin also has a million guitar layers, but you don't really hear it as much with Led Zeppelin. It's cleaner. With Queen, there is so much overdubbing and such production. It's incredible. So I understand he's an amazing guitarist, but the guitar solo in Brighton Rock is so underwhelming. Come on, I remember in high school there was a million guys who could play better than that. No offense to Brian May, who's a great guitarist. I was just so underwhelmed with the guitar. 3 minutes of waste in the middle of that song, as far as I'm concerned. And in fact, in the middle of this concert, he does the Brighton Rock guitar solo also. You know, I know he does a call and response to his own guitar feedback. It's been done 1,000 times. Not impressed with it, sorry. But then it goes back into the Alvin and the Chipmunks part, and it ends in this cacophony of noise and production. I'm not a fan, what can I tell you, of Brighton Rock. And people consider it a classic. I don't know what to tell you. To me, if I want to hear Brighton Rock, I'm going to listen to the Who Quadrophenia, because that's where Brighton rocks. Next song, Killer Queen. Well, everybody knows that. It is the classic Queen track. Deserves it. That is a masterful, there's Queen at their best as far as production goes. I mean, it's off the chart what they can do in the studio. They are truly studio wizards, both vocally, with there's so much going on and so much instrumentally and so many guitar layers. It does have that ELO kind of, I call it auto-tune. They didn't have auto-tune back in the day. You know, I can't stomach auto-tune with that fake singing, and people think it's cool. I don't get it. But ELO also has, like, I call it like auto-tune for music, and it's all over that Killer Queen's track as well. But that's just studio trickery. Listen, it's a masterpiece for what it is, vocally, instrumentally, the phasing of it. Classic track. It's just not, it's so Queen, and for me, I've just never been a really big fan of it. We'll tell you one thing that's always, you know what, one thing that I always thought you're going to laugh, I always thought was cool about Killer Queen is I always thought he said vagina in it. And I'm like, how cool is that? Love to hear vagina in a rock song, right? It turns out now I saw the lyrics, it's not vagina, it's man from China. Disappointing. Hope you got a laugh out of that. Anyway, next up is Tenement. What's this thing called? Tenement Funster. It's the Roger Taylor song, and I actually really like that track. And why? Because to me, it's a more basic, typical 70s rock sound. It's got the acoustic opening. It's got a really good chugging guitar track. Good guitar on it. It's the more basic, kind of pedestrian kind of rock number. I like it. It's a good track from Roger Taylor. He sings a great voice. And then you get like this melody that goes right into, what's it called? Flick of the Wrist, which is interesting because that's the one that's got like these spoken verses. It's so highly theatrical. It kind of reminds me of Rocky Horror Picture Show. You know, it's just so theatrical, which is what Queen is big on. But again, masterful production. I'm hearing so much going on, and I'm probably missing so much. But I hear backwards guitar solos in there, these really cool rolling tom-tom drums from Roger Taylor. It goes back to the spoken march-like verses. It's just, they're such a unique, interesting band, Queen. I totally could take my hat off to what they do in the studio. They're just unique. But the songs, not totally grabbing me yet. That goes right into Lily of the Valley, which is this soft little piano ballad with really high vocals. It's to me like an operetta. Again, I can appreciate the talent. I can appreciate his vocal range. But are these great songs? For me, the only great song on it is Killer Queen so far, and I'm not even a big fan of that just because I don't really like that big Queen sound. So bear with me. Now you go into Now I'm Here, which I guess is considered the next classic on it. Yeah, that's another more traditional kind of 70s rocker. I like it. It's got massive overdubbing, huge choruses, massive guitar sound. It's huge, and it makes the song really, really big. But in a way, again, it's more style over substance. Is Now I'm Here a great song? You know, if you didn't have all that production and it was just a basic song, would it be a great song? No, it wouldn't even be close. But it becomes, I think, a more impressive song because of all the studio trickery and all the effort that they're putting into it. I mean, at the end, there's some guitar jam and they go, 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 you know, like a Chuck Berry kind of go, go, Johnny, be good kind of a thing. But again, for me, it's more production over substance. That's side one. What can I tell you? Let's go into side two, and it starts off with In the Lap of the Gods, which opens up at a really big sound, and it reminds me of a really big movie soundtrack. It should just be on a big screen, you know, overdubbing this big scene. Huge, highly processed vocals over a piano bed. Then towards the end, you get these swirling sound effects. The title In the Lap of the Gods, which just becomes like a thematic, thing to the repeating of the music. It's got great sounds, but it's not a particularly great song, although they'll do get back to it later on. It's almost like a medley. That thing goes right into Stone Cold Crazy, really different from the rest of the album. That's a Stone Cold rocker. That is like thrash metal before thrash metal even existed. This is like speed metal, Robert Plant, high vocals, Led Zeppelin-like. I love that the band breaks down and stops and the vocals continue like a cappella. really good drum fills throughout it, and it's quick. It's almost like a 50s rocker, speed metal, thrash metal. It works really well. Stone Cold Crazy. I know Metallica covered it at one point. That goes into Dear Friends. Completely different. What's Dear Friends? It's like a really quiet piano ballad, almost like a lullaby that you would sing to a child after Stone Cold Crazy, which comes right after In the Lap of the Gods. And it's like a minute long, Dear Friends. That goes into right into Misfire, like this medley. That's a John Deacon track. And again, that's a more traditional, basic, upbeat rock, kind of like a pop track. It's good. It's like 2 minutes long. Is it great? Any of these things great? Well, somebody might say Stone Cold Crazy is great. I don't think it's great. I just think it stands out. If it was Led Zeppelin, it would just be another Led Zeppelin track. What was that? Misfire's okay. You talk about bizarre. That goes right into Bring Back Leroy Brown. Now, I don't know the director. Bad Leroy Brown was a huge hit from Jim Croce. I think it's 73. This came in 74, so this might have been a year later. Bring Back Leroy Brown. I don't know if they were big Jim Croce fans, but talk about bizarre. What's that guy's name? Busby Berkeley or something like that? It's like a tap dance Broadway tune. Big production. I'm waiting to see Gene Kelly come out and do tap dancing with an umbrella in the rain. Banjo, jazz-like, off the wall compared to everything else. And that's what Queen is on this. It's off the wall. It's like, here's a band that's so talented they could do pretty much everything, and they do everything. And their style is unbelievable, completely unique. But where's the rock substance? I'm not really feeling it. But it's bizarre. That goes into She Makes Me Stormtrooper in Stilettos. Interesting title. That's an interesting one. It's not like the other ones. That's like a longer track. It's like 4 minutes long. And it's got like a nice guitar strum, which I think is probably 12 string. But the production, there's so much overdubbing, there's so much guitar on this stuff that it's really, I would prefer a cleaner sound where you could actually, 12 strings is a beautiful sound, but you don't really hear it that well on that. Maybe it's not a 12 string, but I think it is. But it's got an echoey vocal that kind of gives a haunting kind of a sound. It's not too high register, which I prefer. It creates a nice mood. And then towards the end, you get all these sound effects at the end, and it becomes very theatrical again, almost like Pink Floyd-ish, You get all these sound effects, there's these police sirens and stuff going on. Again, taking a good song, not a great song, it's not a catchy song, but making it, I think, more than it is because of all these effects that are going on and all this production wizardry. And then it ends with In the Lap of the Gods, which is actually, this is In the Lap of the Gods revisited, which is pretty cool. This is the perfect way to end the album. I'm not familiar with Queen back in those days. I could totally picture them ending the concerts with that. It's got this huge sound. It starts off with the piano, and then the guitar, really great crunchy guitar comes in for the choruses. In the lap of the gods, and then huge, sounds like 50,000 people singing In the Lap of the Gods. Really powerful. That's goosebump raising stuff. And the only thing on this album that gave me goosebumps. So I love the way it ends. That's a really cool track. If they don't, I don't know. If you're a Queen fan, let me know. Did they used to play the song live? Because I could picture that in a stadium with 50,000 people. That would be really powerful. Kind of also Pink Floyd, The Wall, sound effects, huge chorus, In the Lap of the Gods. Impressive way to end an album that, for me, is very, very mediocre at best. So I hope this is a fair review. I am really putting time into this, guys. In fact, I was talking, did I mention this? I spoke to this guy, Tom, who's a subscriber who's become like a friend. He was a Queen fan back in the day. He saw Queen multiple times in 1973 and 1974, opening up for Mott the Hoople and all of that. So he bought these albums when they came out. I was telling him I'm just having a rough go with this stuff. And he's like, you got to understand, you're coming into this, 50 years later, as an outsider. You know some of their songs from their greatest hits. But he says, imagine being a fan from day one. This stuff didn't sound like anything else. And it's true. This stuff still doesn't sound like anything else. So I guess it was, super exciting then. And I guess, it's super exciting now because it's so different. But again, the way I would describe this stuff so far is it's style over substance. More sizzle than steak. Sometimes I would prefer to hear just a nice basic acoustic track or just a basic rock track with a great song. And In the Lap of the Gods is pretty powerful stuff. And Killer Queen, no doubt, is a huge Queen classic, although it's the kind of song that I would turn off. So anyway, there you go. Let me know what you think. I'm doing my best, folks. What's next? A Night at the Opera would be next, right? So obviously that's got Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm looking forward to continuing the series. I hope you're enjoying it. Is Queen the greatest band of all time? We will see how this goes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hope all's good. Enjoy this summer. It's hot here in the Northeast. Stay safe, stay healthy. And I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.